And welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Beywith, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
All right, here we go. What you think about, you will bring about.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Beywith, and if you liked our opening music, it's called Clarion Call by the Mark Arneson Band, and you can download that on any of your favorite music platforms. For those of you that are new, we're about sound information, not just sound bites. Our goal is to raise all voices, big and small, from those diagnosed to those who care and serve, advocates, researchers, and so much more. Now, today is a live show, and you can call in at 323-870-4602. That's 323-870-4602 if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment with our guest today. And it is the holiday season, so I have to thank our listeners. I am so grateful for each and every one of you sharing our episodes on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and helping us build a community that people feel safe and comfortable at. I think that's really the only way we're going to, win this battle against dementia is really working together. Now, today we are going to be talking with a woman who has been living with FTD, that's frontal temporal dementia, and she's got a lot to share with us. So I'm really excited. But before I introduce her, I do want to mention that all of our shows are archived, and we have, over 10 years worth of shows you can go back and listen to at your leisure. So you might want to subscribe to our show here and it'll alert you every time a show pops up. Typically, we do shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but again, you can listen to them anytime on any of your favorite music platforms. I want to give a shout out to Artist Way in Woodbury, Minnesota. They are doing Memory Cafe, which is a virtual on the third Wednesday of each month. And then Arthur Senior Living is doing a Memory Cafe on the second and the fourth Wednesday of each month. Both of those I facilitate. And because they're virtual, anybody is welcome to come and join us. So you can find out by reaching out to me at Lori, Lori, at Alzheimer Speaks, or you can just go to the Memory Cafe directory. You can go to the Cafe Connect section where it lists over 100 virtual cafes that you can participate in. I also want to give a shout out to Coral Health. They are allowing people to download their apps, both Music First and Coral Faith, free during the pandemic. So go to Coral, that's CORO health.com to be able to access that. And I also wanted to just announce that we have launched Dementia Map. And Dementia Map is a global resource directory that serves those living with dementia as well as their care partners, family and friends, and business professionals. So if you're looking for some new services, please take a peek. We're going to be growing each and every day. And if you have a service that you would like listed, we do have a free listing as well as 2 paid listings as well. Let's hear from the footbar walker, and we'll be right back and introduce you to our guest.
Introducing the life-changing footbar walker.
I'm Peggy from Danville, Kentucky, and I'm 91 years old. The footbar walker revolutionized my care of George. The saving that I made from having to put him in a nursing home came to about $192,000. The foot bar walker opens and closes just like a standard walker. The only thing that is different is the top bar and the foot bar. Does that ever make a difference?
Does someone you love use a walker? Do they struggle to get up from a seated position? Are you a caregiver dealing with physical pain and stress as you help your patient? The foot bar walker was designed to assist not only the patient, but also the caregiver. Patients have more control standing up, and no lifting from the caregiver is required. See how it works at thefootbarwalker.com. That's thefootbarwalker.com. Peggy, would you recommend the foot bar walker?
Do I ever? I would not be in the health that I'm in today at this age had it not been for the foot bar walker.
Well, welcome back. Let's get to our show today. I'm really excited to talk with Myrna Norman, who was diagnosed 12 years ago with FTD, which is frontal temporal lobe dementia, and she has been an advocate for those living with dementia throughout her whole journey, and she's going to share with us some tips that she has. How are you doing today, Myrna?
Oh, just fine, thank you, Lori, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with your audience.
Wonderful. We are excited to have you. I also want to introduce everybody to Kate Lau. She's going to be my co-host today. And Kate is also living with dementia. So welcome, Kate. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Lori. Thank you.
Good. And do you want to tell people how long you've been diagnosed and with what type of dementia?
I have been diagnosed for over 7 years, and I too, like Myrna, have a FTD, frontal lobe degeneration, and I've been on a plateau for quite a few years, and my progression has been slow. So I'm doing well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Myrna, I'm going to start out with you. I want to ask you if you can give some people a little bit of background on, when you were diagnosed. I know it was 12 years ago, but what were some of the signs that you had that something was off?
Oh, for sure. I lived at that point, my husband and I lived in a smaller city. We're currently just outside of Vancouver. We lived in a smaller city in BC, and I was having problems with spatially. So I might take a step and think that the floor was going to drop away. Or one dreadful situation I remember, I was driving our vehicle, and we were on a hill, and at the bottom of the hill was a lake. And there was we were stopped in a line, and there was like a traffic person that was stopping the cars on the highway to do some repair. And I had both my feet on the brake, and I was screaming to my husband as loud as I could that we were rolling backwards. I really believed with my heart and soul that we were going to just somehow fly backwards and end up in the lake. And that was the kind of really scary part that said, hey, lady, something's not quite right here. I had some previous difficulties. We had our own business, and I had been doing books for 100 years, as I say, and I couldn't do them anymore. And I hired a bookkeeper, and she would say to me, but Myrna, this is so simple. It's on the computer. Here, I'll show you. And when she would leave, I would rant and rave at myself for not being able to accomplish that any longer. And then I had some rather odd thoughts that were not me. And that sort of was the straw that broke the camel's back, and decided to go and get some help.
Okay, wonderful. Kate, do you mind telling people what were some of your symptoms in the beginning?
Sure. I was the same with Myrna. I had my own business. I thought, all right, I'm going to retire with something fun. I had a shop that's called, I can't remember. It's something like this and that. Or I had an antique shop that sold all kinds of things, like even new things. And I found that I was kind of slow with my math. I was asking a lady who worked for me to help me with it, and she had 3 aneurysms. And I thought that she looked kind of lost one day, and she asked me for a job. And little would I know that she was so much better than I was, and she was a great help. And that was one. Number 2, I was at a parking lot. I wanted to go get groceries after work, and I didn't realize that I was just sitting in my Jeep for I don't know how long, that I never got out of the car or the Jeep. You can't call a Jeep a car. It gets insulted. So I was sitting in my Jeep. Then I realized that I didn't know how to start it. So I called my husband, and then I told him what was happening. And then he said, well, I'll come get you. Just as he said that, I said, oh, I know how to turn my key in the ignition. He said, do you know how to get back? I said, yes, I do now. And I just went home. That was just kind of like an incident, you know. Mm-hmm. But the real reality hits home when I walked down the street, because a lady that lived down the street told me to come and look at her, you know, garden of roses. So I said, well, it's spring, you know, it's a great time to just walk. It's directly the road that goes from my house to her house. There's no turns, nothing. And her house at the end of the street, and I couldn't find it. So I got lost. I went a long way. I went miles, I think, and I didn't know how to get home. That's one of those things, you know.
Scary.
Yeah, it was, mine was getting lost when I walk, but I will not get lost if I drive. Isn't that something?
Isn't that
interesting?
Yes.
Now, Myrna, how are you coping with your diagnosis? Are you doing well? And if so, how did you get to that space? Because I would imagine when you first got the diagnosis, you were probably, you know, set back and a little distraught.
That's an understatement. I was in despair. You know, fortunately, my husband had to leave the next day, the day after I got the diagnosis, and I had gone home after my doctor's appointment, printed out a bunch of stuff about dementia, didn't tell him, put it in his suitcase, and told him when he got there he should read this information. He was going to be gone for about 10 days. And you know what? That was the best 10 days because I wailed and I cried and I felt so sorry for myself. And so I was able to, use all those emotions and let my body and my mind use those to help me to get to the other side. And I believe that was sort of the number one thing that I did to help me sort of find my way in this. And then I educated myself. I took a course through Tasmanian University, excellent course, and learned everything I could, and then I became an advocate. But I think there's about 4 or 5 things that are really important for people, and that's to try and find a relaxation routine. And every day you might have to force yourself, but find something that you really like to do and just relax and quiet yourself for at least half an hour every single day. And go outside and go for a walk. It's great to walk inside a mall, but hey, you don't see the birds, you don't see the green leaves. Go outside, even if it's only 15 minutes every day. And look for the humor. You know, I think the one thing that people with dementia do the most harm to themselves is by that committee of idiots that sits in our brain. And when we screw up, they remind us. They say, look what you did. And we need to get rid of that committee of idiots. Art is perfect, any kind of art, music, poetry. I write poetry now. I had never written poetry in my life before, and I love doing art. Spirituality and advocating. Advocating has been probably the most important thing that I've done, not only for myself but for others, but it helps me immensely.
Oh, nice. Nice. I liked when because when you said that you sent your husband off, I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder how that hit him. But I'm sure he was going through everything himself. And then, but allowing yourself to go through all those emotions, I think it's so critically important for us to be able to move through those emotions to get to the other side. And I personally have believed for a long time that when we stuff them, and we don't express those emotions, that's when we get stuck and we start spinning, and we don't really just let our body go through the process of grieving, if that's what it is, or feeling the sadness and then readjusting to, what's going to be.
I agree, and I have a short little thing that I'd like to read. It was written by Norm McNamara. He's the person who started Purple Angels in England, and he's been diagnosed with Lewy body for about 10 years, and is having a tough time of it. But he wrote this poem, and I think it really, or this little story, and it helps people understand. Like Kate was saying, and I was saying, that sometimes we can do things that perhaps we shouldn't be able to because we couldn't do them the day before. Anyway, he says, I'm often asked what in layman's terms is dementia. And he answers it this way, especially at this time of the year. So he says, if you can imagine a Christmas tree absolutely dripping with lights that shine as bright as you have ever seen, have you ever wondered of the beauty of it and how it shines these lights of hope all around the world? Then, if you imagine that every one of those wonderful lights are your life's memories, which can be seen and remembered at any time, then all of a sudden, one by one, those lights go out. Slowly but surely, they start to diminish until they are gone forever, never to return. All memories of loved ones, family, and life experiences just disappear until the final one folds into darkness, and as we know, unless they find a cure, what that means. This is how I explain it in layman's term, what dementia is. But he says, and if you know me, you know there's always a but. If sometimes you give that Christmas tree a bit of a nudge, and he says, and I don't in any way condone shaking anybody with dementia, but if you include and engage with people who have this disease, sometimes, just sometimes, these wonderful lights come back on. If only for a second, a few minutes, or permanently, it doesn't matter. The point is that they have come back on, and that memory has returned for no matter how long. Isn't that beautifully said?
It really is.
Yes.
I remember when he first wrote that many, many years ago, and it does. It just explains it in a real simple fashion that everybody can visualize what that must be like. Kate, do you agree with that as well?
Definitely. Anyway, I love Norm, so I'm biased. But yes, I do. I do. It is true and it is sad. But in layman's term, I think that's about the closest you can come to. Because it's true, one at a time. And dementia, as we all know, is a thief. It steals our skills, our memory, and those lights go out. Yes, a little nudge. Sometimes you just have to move the cord a little bit, and all the lights start coming on. And I went like, oh, darn, I was about to throw all the lights out.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we feel about ourselves sometimes. I'm giving up. I've had it because I can't find a word. I do that every day. Even though you have a spouse, a partner, whatever, and you talk about your dementia, how long can you talk about it with the same person? It's like they must be totally frustrated hearing this all the time. Then that's when you know that, well, enough is enough. Just live it. This is your life. It's not everybody's lives. They don't have it. They won't understand it. So I advocate by wherever I go, whoever I see, new people, victim, always talk about dementia. So what do you do? Well, I've got, frontal lobe degeneration. It's a form of dementia. So they've never heard of FTD. And here we are. I always see that FTD is the most common dementia. I've never heard of FTD. All I knew was Alzheimer's. So most people just think that, Alzheimer's is the only dementia. That's all they know. So I felt like I need to advocate, and that's that. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and Lewy body is up there too. We're hearing more and more about both the frontal temporal lobe and Lewy body and vascular dementia as well. Myrna, how difficult was it for you, to decide to go to the doctor? You told us kind of what symptoms and stuff that you had, but was that a pretty easy step of I got to figure out what's going wrong, or was there just a lot of fear wrapped in that?
No, I that was fine with me. I just needed to know what was going on. But, I probably had heard the word Alzheimer's in my past, but it was only a word. I had no idea what it meant. I had dementia was like demented, and that was not a nice word or situation. And so my education around anything to do with that was so limited, so that when he told me that and told me I had 8 years to live, I was just totally devastated.
Yeah. Have you sent him a thank you note for your 4 extra years so far?
I know.
A reminder every year.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? But, it's so annoying because, well, I shouldn't say that. How do I put this? We had a big home, we had big furniture, all of that, and we had to sell it all because obviously I was going to be gone in 8 years, so we had to plan for a whole different lifestyle. And here I am, plugging along. We could have stayed in our house.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is hard because, I remember even when my dad had cancer, we wanted to know. And so we kept pressuring the doctor. And he said, we really don't know. And then finally he said, okay, a year to a year and a half. And my dad lived 4.5. And then we felt very blessed that we had him those extra years.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have even told us anything except we just kept pushing him against the wall all the time.
Yeah.
And trying to get things figured out. So, yeah,
isn't it strange, Lori? It's like I missed my death year. My death year was last year. I think my death year was last year. They gave me 6 years. And I went like, how come I'm not dead yet, It's like, it's 6 years, and then I felt like, well, I don't even feel like I'm dying. You know what I mean? So where do they get the numbers from? Because in the first place, right, Myrna, like you said, they don't know. They don't know when they diagnose us. I was told I had seizure. I had I can't remember what it was, seizure, all kinds of things. I was sent to a very well-known hospital that specialized in seizures, and they couldn't find anything. And then later, my neurologist referred me to my neuropsych, did all the tests, and she said, I've got dementia. For 2 years, I was on Aricept and come on, guys, you know that medicine. Namenda.
Nope.
I was dying. I thought that really, do I have 6 years? I feel I had 3 years. And found out that I had FTD. I went for another test. I asked for another test because I was always like on the couch or, feeling sick. I asked for another test and found out that they misdiagnosed me for Alzheimer's, and FTD does not have any medication. They treat your symptoms for maybe anxiety or whatever you have. And I didn't know at that time that there's no medication for FTD. So I've been treated with Alzheimer's medication for 2 years. And when they took me off it and realized it's FTD, seriously, I felt so much better. That's when I went on a plateau because they've misdiagnosed me and put me on the wrong medication. And told me I had 6 years to live. And here I am, still alive.
Wow.
Kate, I think people like you and I are educating the doctors and all those others that live past 5 or 6 years. We're educating the doctors now.
Yeah.
If they don't know what they're diagnosed, how would they know when we're going to die?
Yeah. I want to keep our conversation moving because the time goes by so fast. And I want to ask you, Myrna, about how we lessen stigma of dementia. How are you out there in the world trying to do that?
Certainly, that's a great question. I'm on a committee that is called Dementia Action, and we've decided to flip stigma on its ear. So we're not just going to accept the sort of stigmatized attitude of dementia. We're actually in the process of getting some T-shirts made that we're going to wear around town, and it said, dementia does not define me, I define dementia. So we're really trying in lots of different ways to be out there in front of our communities. And I think I've done a lot of sort of background work on this, and it seems that people with dementia need to be the keynote speaker at events, so people can see, that we really can do these kinds of things. And people need to understand that stigma is really it's discrimination. And it seems that in our communities and our lifestyles, we need to stigmatize people. You could feel stigmatized because you're a woman, because you're short, because you're tall, whatever. And we just sort of have to learn that everybody living on this planet has some sort of a challenge, perhaps not seen, perhaps seen. And we don't want to discriminate against everything. That sounds kind of airy-fairy, but we need to work at it. We need to make films and bust the myths that are out there. And grassroots and local champions of communities, I think, are the best ones to lead this.
Yep. Kate, what are your thoughts on what Myrna's talking about?
Yeah, I agree with Myrna. Myrna, I need one of those T-shirts, by the way.
Okay.
And sell it to the Association for FTD. Yeah, they like T-shirts. What was the question again?
It was really, she was talking about how to lessen stigma, and she was saying, the face of the educator really needs to be people with dementia,
Definitely.
speakers. And, yep, I agree.
Because I was asked to speak in the early days of Alzheimer's Association walk for dementia. And I was very closely working with the media, people here. And then the following or the third walk, they put somebody there, and I was totally like, this is for real. I used to work for that same facility, and she went up, and all she did was sold a nursing home or skilled nursing the whole time.
Oh, dear.
And I went like, oh, dear, this is very bad. And all the people here are just like, she's selling her facility. People aren't dumb, but we come here to walk, to honor one of our family members who passed, or we're honoring somebody who has dementia, and some are walking for themselves. And you are trying to put us in skilled nursing. So the face of dementia has to be represented by somebody with dementia, and they can speak better about their symptoms, and that is your greatest advocacy right there.
Yeah, when I speak at events, I always try to get them to do at least a panel of people, and it's really interesting because, you know, after people with dementia speak, people who have been in the industry 20 and 30 years go, oh my gosh, that was the most helpful thing I've ever gotten out of any education at all. And I'm like, I told ya. You know, they're filled with great insight. Plus, they change the perception. I had one guy actually. He was the administrator of a nursing home, and he broke down sobbing, just sobbing.
Aww.
And, you know, I was doing a keynote, and I couldn't stop. But during break, then I said, are you okay? And literally somebody ran out and got a roll of toilet paper and brought it back to him because he couldn't move. He was just paralyzed and sobbing as I was speaking. And talking with him afterwards, he said, I've been doing it all wrong. You know, after, you know, he said, my dad has it now, and I feel horrible. The advice I've been giving families that I thought was accurate, that everyone told me, you know, this is what they were teaching us how to do it. And he said, you're just opening up a whole nother door. And that's because I had walked the path, and I was actively listening and encouraging, you know, more people with dementia to speak out. And the messaging then becomes very different and very relative in the everyday person's life, because you've got these real life examples. Like, Myrna, when you were talking about feeling like the car was rolling back, and yet you've got 2 feet on the brake and it's still moving, and you know, and Kate walking down the block that you've done a zillion times, and then not being able to find the house you want to go to, or not being able to find your way home, or to know to put a key in the car. Those stories are powerful, you know, and I mean, I've experienced that just once myself, where my water heater went out. My brother came over, and this was like 10 years ago, and, you know, I was going through a lot. I was in the process of a divorce. My mom was dealing with her dementia, just many, many things. And then the water heater was just kind of the topping on the cake, and he asked me to go get a plumber's wrench. And I'm like a girl with all her tools, and I didn't know what it looked like. And I remember going to my tools, just standing there thinking, what the hell does a plumber's wrench look like? And then I went back down and I said, Scott, I can't find it. He's like, Lori, I know you have one. I've seen your tools. So I go back up there again, and I can't find it. And I come down to him again, and I said, Scott, I can't find it. I said, can you draw me a picture? And his jaw just dropped, like, oh my gosh, here we go. But I and that's only happened to me once, but it was frightening. It was sad. It was scary. It was embarrassing. It was, I was filled with shame because I couldn't figure out something that was so normal for me to be able to do. And it was, you know, luckily it was just a one-time thing for me. But people don't understand when those things are happening, how that affects a person with dementia and the energy it takes to try to get it right. I mean, it was exhausting. And for me, it was one thing I had to do. It wasn't something going on throughout my day, you know, never knowing when those moments of just blankness are going to come, or, you know, when a symptom is going to pop up. I don't think people truly understand what it takes to try to appear normal and pull yourself together and work through, even if it's an adaptation process, until you really have those conversations of saying, just think what that would be like, you know.
And that emotional experience for you, Lori, was worse than not knowing the tool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
And people with forms of dementia go through that daily, sometimes many times a day. And it's that committee of idiots in our head that, is telling us what's wrong with you. Why can't you do that? You did that yesterday, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do ask myself, how much different would my life be if I don't have dementia? The dynamics in my family, you know what I mean? It has affected my family, although they don't accept it. My kids refuse to talk about it. My husband talks about it. But whenever I say, I forgot this and that, then they said, well, is it because of your dementia or this and that? Then I would snap and say, everything does not have to be my dementia. I become very sensitive about everything is dementia if I forget something. But not everything is dementia, But I know for sure that with FTD, I've heard so many times, what part of our bodies would FTD affect most of all? Myrna, do you know if it affects our limbs? Have you read that?
Well, yeah, for sure it does. It affects, I think, every part of our body. I'm having a lot of hand tremors now, and so even keyboarding is becoming difficult because my fingers hit keys that I'm not asking them to hit, and it becomes so frustrating.
That's why craft has been so difficult. I used to scrapbooking. I used to do, I'll say it, okay, beautiful cards. And now I can't even look at them. I feel like I've got to compete with my old self. Who says I have to compete? I can't. I am a perfectionist, and when I look at what I did and I want to do it, I went like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. But I've got a 6-year-old grandson who's challenging me. Are you going to make me a scrapbook? I said, yes, year after year. So after Christmas, I'm making that little boy a scrapbook because that's the most precious possessions that my children have. They all took their scrapbooks and show them off every time their friends come. So I've given away quite a few scrapbooks of theirs. I don't want to keep them. I've seen them grown up. This is for them and their children and friends and what have you. It affected my right hand tremors, and now then it affected my feet. Did you say something like that earlier, Norma? I could put my my sandals on because my brain is, telling my foot something, and my foot said, I don't want to listen to you, and it goes every which way, but I couldn't put my flip-flops on unless I guide it with my hand. And then the symptoms just totally went away. And I went like, what on earth is happening? And now it's affected my right leg. I can't walk. I have a cane, and I have a walker, and I'm graduating. Now I have a wheelchair. It's manual. It's very, very light. I'm doing a commercial here. It's made by Thai Light. It's expensive, but it's so worth it. You can just pop the wheels out, throw it at the back of your car, fold the seat, throw it. Anybody can do it. If I can do it with my bad hand, and you drive, and then you're very independent. You know. But yes, it's affected my right hand tremor, like you said, Myrna, and now it's my right leg. And so I've moved out from my huge house to a one-story apartment. So that's how much difference it's made to my family. Myrna, how did your family take it?
My family's used a lot of humor with this. We had a family meeting shortly after I was diagnosed with an attorney to do up all the paperwork and make sure that everybody knew what was going on. You know, a funny story, I have 4 daughters, and they said to me, Mama, if you have to go into a care home, when we come in to see you, we're all going to wear name tags, but I'm going to wear my sister's name tag, and my sister's going to wear her other sister's name tag. And I think that's hilarious, and I think that's a really positive aspect. You know, we go through changes all the time, and it's difficult for them. And I think I talk to my husband a lot because my doctor took away my driver's license about 8 years ago, and it's the feeling of being independent that I find so difficult to deal with. It's hard to always rely on someone else.
Mm-hmm. Say, I want to keep our conversation going here. We could talk all day. This has been great stuff. One thing I wanted to mention when you guys were talking about tremors, because I think a lot of the public doesn't understand that some people can have more than one type of dementia, or they might get some Parkinsonian symptoms as well that can be tremors, or even limbs tightening up and not being is flexible and stuff. So I wanted to throw that in. But I do want to get to your book, Myrna. Why don't you tell us about your book and why you wrote that?
I wanted to write a book that gave tangible tips. I've been asking the Alzheimer Society of BC and any group I work with, and I've been saying to them, we need tangible tips. I need to have some ideas of what to do when I can't do something. How do I deal with that? And so I wrote this book, and I had it published with large font, and I wrote it just as though I'm speaking it. So it's not an academic book. It's just a very personal book. I had listened, Lori and Kate, to a Dr. Sabat at a virtual conference, and he said something, and Lori sort of brought it up when she was talking about the plumber's tool, that our memories are based on our emotional incidences. And that just really hit me. And I thought that it's really important to talk about that more. At one point, I was doing an exercise program at our local hospital, and one of the persons there said to me, "What's the matter with you? Have you got dementia?" And I'm generally a pretty tough person, but it hurt me to the soul. And and I left, and I never went back. Like, who did I hurt? Myself. And so I needed to sort of come to terms with that kind of stuff and to share those moments with other people, so that when either the person you're caring for or as a person living with dementia, when we make errors, like the time that I brushed my teeth with hair removal, there are some simple ways to solve that problem, but we need to sort of think about it to solve it. And certainly speaking for myself, sometimes I'm not able to think it through. I sort of react, but don't sort of think about how I reacted and why I reacted. So I thought the book was really important to write. And I write about all kinds of things that we can do to make life a little bit easier. I talk about some of the situations that I've involved myself in that didn't turn out very well. Lori, I've heard you talking about baths and showers and how difficult that is and why that is difficult. And I think that's so important for us, for someone like you, to explain to people with dementia why we have these responses to situations. I mean, that's just vital, isn't it? And people haven't been doing that.
Yes.
I don't cook because I leave the stove on, and I got the oven on fire once, so I don't cook. But I can help my husband by suggesting things to him. I leave the water running in the kitchen sink, and I've flooded the floor twice, and we've had to have the floor replaced twice. So I write about all these kinds of situations in an effort to help people realize that these things can happen to any of us. And it doesn't mean that the world is coming to an end. It just means we made an error.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that's really important for people with dementia, particularly to understand. We're still, our essence is still there, and our essence will be there until the day we close our eyes for the last time. And we need to realize that we're valid, and we're citizens of the world and of our countries, of our cities, and of our communities.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the difficult things there too, and I love that you talk about tangible tips. It's not pie in the sky. It's not something like, oh, okay, you told me this, but now I still got to figure it out myself on how to adapt. But I think one of the things that is so difficult is with both of you two, people will be listening to this show going, oh, they don't have dementia. Listen to them. They sound great. They look great, all of those types of things. And so they keep projecting that that there's nothing wrong, that what this person is going through. They keep projecting because it's more comfortable for them to not have to deal with, oh, there's something that's changed. And so they keep pushing that on you guys, pushing. You're supposed to be able to do that. And I think sometimes people with dementia think, well, yeah, I guess I should still be able to do that. And yet inside, you're going, oh, but I can't. I've tried. I just, and some days maybe you can, and some days maybe you can't, but it's not always a consistent thing. But, not only are you kind of fighting with your body, then you're fighting with the public and the environment around you in terms of, are they willing to be realistic? Are they willing to listen and see what you're trying to show people, or are they just going to, do an off the cuff? No, that's not what's going on here. When they're really
Lori,
not.
that's amazing. That's like, you don't look like you have dementia is what people with dementia get a lot, because what does people's perception of dementia is end stage.
Yep, exactly.
End stage, or I would say something to them. That is after I've been told that I look normal, how beautiful I am, how lovely I am, I look great, all of those nice things. And then one day I've kind of had it. So I said, what? Do you expect me to be drooling on my wheelchair or what? Do you have this perception of people with dementia as ugly just because they drool even, I never have this feeling towards the sick, so I'm different maybe. Maybe they're different. But then I've had it. It's almost like they're going overboard trying to tell me how beautiful I am. And I've never had that when I was beautiful. And now they keep on trying to tell me I'm beautiful. I went like, you're annoying me, And I think the bigger picture is the clergy, the worship places, they have to teach the ministers or whoever they are, and the elders and the congregation. Speak to them. They're losing people. Because somebody came up to me at a parking lot, touched my stomach, put one hand on my head, which I don't mind. You pray for me. But don't tell me after you prayed for me that I have no more dementia. And I go to my doctor and I have dementia. My blood work says this. My blood work says that. And you say I don't have it, that God will heal me. Sure, I have faith, but this is black and white. I still have dementia. So I didn't want to go to church because I cannot stand this anymore. They're not wanting to get educated when it is out there. And my heart goes out most to the ones that has early onset, because I had early onset. And at that time, my gosh, nobody has heard of it. So mine was the first group. I was in an elderly people group to working out. When they heard about early onset, they said they've never heard of it. So they carried a banner at the walk, first early onset dementia walk team, and they walked with me. They're all in their 70s or 80s. Go figure. They've never heard of it. Wow. And my heart just broke for them. They're so much older than me, And my heart broke for all the ones that have early onset so young, and imagine all the questions that I had to answer then. And now they're younger and younger when they get their early onset. It's got to be hard.
And we just have to be more accepting that everybody is a little bit different, and the beauty within that. I mean, you look at, there's so many different circumstances in the world where there really are a lot of prejudices and stigmas that are taken kind of for granted, that this is just the way it is. And that all, I think is kind of coming to a head and bubbling and saying, no, we just have to be more gracious with everyone. Myrna, how do people get your book?
We're selling it ourselves, actually, and so they can either email me at the.normans, the as in the car, the cat, the.normans at shaw, SHAW.ca, or they can even telephone me. My telephone number is in Canada, so it's 1-604-477-9628, and I'd be happy to send it along. People that have read it, some people have cried, some people have laughed. One lady's read it 4 times. It's a very comfortable, easy read, and it talks about things that we've probably experienced, and so it's kind of like a friend.
Mhm. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm quite
friend.
Yeah. This has just been
Lori,
a wonderful conversation.
It is. I wanted to say to Lori that I think it's so important that because she's been a caregiver and sort of been through the whole thing, she understands what people with dementia really need, and that's tangible tips. We need to know how to deal with something when it comes up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Things are improving, and I was early onset as well, and I see a huge difference in the 12 years that I've had dementia. Things are so much more open.
Yeah, they are.
True. That is true.
But it's really only happened in the last almost 5 years.
Yeah,
where we've
I agree.
really seen things powered up. And so, but it's exciting, more and more things are changing, more money is going towards services, and I think we're seeing this leveling of the playing field between research for a cure and services on the ground for today, people living with things. And for a while it was just, we got to get that magic pill, and we didn't have as many services. And we're seeing a lot more things pop up. We're seeing a lot more people with dementia speak up, and their families as well, that really have that in the trench tactical tips, like you said, that really are tangible and usable and applicable. And an understanding that everyone's dementia is a little bit different, and every care partner is a little bit different. Every family is a little bit different. So, it's not a one-stop shop or a one-stop fix for any of this. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Now both you ladies are on Facebook, so if they wanted to connect with you too, Kate, they could get you at Kate, and that's CATE, and then Lau, LAU, and then Myrna, you spell your name MYRNA, Norman, and so that would be another way to connect with both of these powerful and wonderful women who are sharing their stories. So have a wonderful holiday season, everybody, and thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it very much.
And thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Yep, bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith from the Senior Fitness with Meredith podcast, where I discuss all things for seniors, from fitness, your health and wellness journeys, how to be all over strong and beyond. I also have my mini podcast called Motivation with Meredith. It's a great, quick motivational pick-me-up for your days. Join me, listen now, search for Senior Fitness with Meredith on your favorite podcast platform.